Cyber Threat Brief for April 7, 2026. China-backed Storm 1175 is weaponizing 0 days to deploy Medusa ransomware against healthcare and SMBs, with attacks moving from breach to encryption in under 24 hours. Fortinet's 40-client EMS has a critical 0-day, CVE 2026-35616, under active exploitation with a CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, deadline of April 9. Our evil and GAN crab leaders are now publicly identified by German authorities after causing $40 million in damages. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cybersecurity Brief. April 7, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. China-linked Storm 1175 exploits 0 days to deploy Medusa ransomware. Storm 1175, a China-based financially motivated threat actor, is exploiting 0-day and recently disclosed vulnerabilities to deploy Medusa ransomware with extraordinary speed. The group moves from initial access to data exfiltration and ransomware deployment within days, and in some cases within 24 hours. Recent campaigns have heavily impacted healthcare, education, professional services, and finance sectors in Australia, the UK, and the US. Since 2023, Storm 1175 has weaponized over 16 vulnerabilities, including CVE 2025-10035, Go Anywhere MFT, CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, 98th percentile, and Smarter Mail, CISA KEV, EPSS 99th percentile, both exploited as 0 days before public disclosure. Other exploited flaws include and Ivanti Connect Secure, both CISA KEV, EPSS 100th percentile, and Connect Wise Screen Connect, both CISA KEV, and JetBrains TeamCity CISA KEV, CISA KEV, EPSS 100th percentile, and Simple Help Beyond Trust, CISA KEV, EPSS 99th percentile, and Papercut CISA KEV. The group has demonstrated capability to chain multiple exploits together and has recently targeted Linux systems, including vulnerable Oracle WebLogic instances, and 13 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: patch all listed CVEs immediately. Storm 1175 rotates exploits rapidly during the window between disclosure and patch adoption, weaponizing some vulnerabilities within 1 day of disclosure. For CVE 2025-31324, SAP NetWeaver, the group exploited the flaw on April 25, 2025, 1 day after April 24 disclosure. Audit internet-facing systems for compromise indicators including new user accounts, web shells, RMM, remote monitoring and management, software deployments, AnyDesk, Adara, Mesh Agent, Connect Wisescreen Connect, Simple Help, PDQ deployer usage, modified Windows firewall policies enabling RDP, Microsoft Defender exclusions, and Bandazip/rclone for data exfiltration. This is urgent for healthcare organizations running vulnerable infrastructure. Sources: the Hacker News Microsoft security blog Bleeping Computer. Fortinet 40-client EMS 0-day under active exploitation, CVE 2026-35616, Fortinet released an emergency hotfix over the weekend for CVE 2026-35616, a critical 9. 1 CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, improper access control vulnerability in 40-client enterprise management server, EMS, versions 7.4.5 and 7.4.6. The flaw allows unauthenticated attackers to execute code or commands via crafted requests. Fortinet confirmed active exploitation in the wild. CISA added to the Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog on April 6 with a federal agency remediation deadline of April 9, 2026. Watchtower honeypots captured initial exploitation attempts on March 31, 2026, with low and slow exploitation that ramped up significantly after Fortinet's hotfix disclosure on April 6. Shadows over tracks nearly 2,040 client EMS instances exposed online, with over 1,400 in the US and Europe. VulnCheck notes a relatively small internet-facing footprint of approximately 100 instances, but the 0-day shares similarities with another unauthenticated 40-client EMS flaw disclosed February 6 and exploited in the wild, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: apply Fortinet's hotfix for 40-client EMS 7.4.5 and 7.4.6 immediately, or upgrade to version 7.4.7 when available. Federal agencies must remediate by April 9 per BOD 22.1. This is the second critical 40 client EMS flaw, exploited in the wild within 2 months. If patching is not immediately possible, remove 40 client EMS from internet exposure and monitor for signs of compromise, including unauthorized code execution, new administrative accounts, or unusual network traffic patterns. CISA has added 10 Fortinet defects to KEV since early 2025. Sources: The Register Cyberscoop Bleeping Computer CIS A Dark Reading. Chrome 0-Day, CVE 2026-5281, actively exploited. Google patched CVE 2026-5281, a high-severity use-after-free bug in Dawn web GPU implementation, exploited in the wild. Chrome versions 146.0.7680.177/100 for Windows and Mac OS, and 146.0.7680.177 for Linux address the flaw. Google did not disclose exploitation details, threat actors, or attack methodology. CISA added CVE 2026-5281 to KEV with an April 15, 2026 remediation deadline. EPSS score is 0. 30, 87th percentile. Action: update Chrome to version 146.0.7680.177 or later immediately. Federal agencies must remediate by April 15. Verify Chrome Auto Update is enabled across the organization. This is the latest in a series of web GPU-related vulnerabilities, and use-after-free bugs are commonly chained with other exploits for privilege escalation or sandbox escape. Source: The Hacker News. TrueComp 0-Day, CVE 2026-3502, exploited in government attacks. Chinese threat actors exploited CVE 2026-3502, a 7.8 CVSS 0-Day in TrueComp video conferencing software, targeting government entities in Southeast Asia. The vulnerability exists due to lack of integrity checks when fetching application update code, allowing distribution of tampered updates. The compromised TrueConf on-premises server was operated by a governmental IT department and served as a video conferencing platform for dozens of government entities across the country. CISA added CVE 2026-3502 to KEV with an April 16, 2026 deadline. EPSS is 0. 13, 80th percentile. Action: patch TrueConf immediately. Federal agencies must remediate by April 16. Audit TrueConf servers for signs of compromise, including unexpected software updates, unauthorized file modifications, or malicious binaries. Review update distribution mechanisms and implement code signing verification. This attack demonstrates supply chain risk when update infrastructure lacks integrity validation. Government and critical infrastructure organizations using TrueConf should treat this as high priority. Source: The Hacker News. Next section: ransomware claims last 48h. 2 claims tracked across 2 groups in the last 48 hours. These are unverified claims from ransomware leak sites, not confirmed breaches. Group: victim sector country, Cry 0 Dini Transportation, Italy. Shadowbit $3 University of Georgia Education United States. Next section: ransomware and extortion. German authorities identify R-Evil and GandCrab leaders. Germany's Federal Criminal Police, BKA, publicly identified 2 Russian nationals as the leaders of GandCrab and R-Evil ransomware operations from 2019 to 2021. Kirill Maximovich Shchukin, age 31, alias Unken/Unknown, and Anatoly Sergeyevich Kravchuk, age 43, are accused of at least 130 extortion cases in Germany, with 25 victims paying $2.2 million in ransom and total economic damage exceeding $40 million. Shchukin operated as a representative of both ransomware groups on cybercrime forums. GandCrab started in early 2018, and the original leader claimed to have generated $2 billion in ransom payments before retiring in June 2019 with $150 million. R-Evil Sodanakibai emerged shortly after, formed from GandCrab affiliates and operators. Notable R-Evil victims include multiple Texas local governments, Acer, and the Cassia supply chain attack, impacting approximately 1,500 downstream victims. Following the July 2021 Cassia attack, law enforcement breached R-Evil servers and monitored operations before Russia arrested more than a dozen members in January 2022, who were released in 2025 after serving time on carding charges. BKA believes both suspects are in Russia and has requested public assistance in locating them, with entries created on the EU's Most Wanted portal. Action: this identification is significant because Unken/Unknown was a prominent figure in ransomware forums for years. While both suspects are in Russia and unlikely to face prosecution, the public doxing serves as a deterrent and provides intelligence value for tracking ransomware ecosystem connections. Organizations should review historical incident data from 2019 to 2021 for GAN-CRAB or R-evil indicators and ensure those compromise vectors have been remediated. Sources: Bleeping Computer Data Breaches. Net Security Week. Jones Day Law Firm confirms breach after Silent Ransom Group attacked Jones Day. One of the top-ranked law firms in the U.S., confirmed a data breach after Silent Ransom Group. SRG, also known as Luna Moth, Chatty Spider, Unc 3753, posted stolen data to their dark web leak site on March 30. The firm disclosed that limited files for 10 clients were obtained and all affected clients were notified. SRG's leak included a file tree and screenshots of negotiation chats dated March 2028, showing a $13 million ransom demand. Jones Day did not make a counteroffer. The attack targeted Greg Castañas, who leads Jones Day's Federal Circuit team. SRG threatened to publish all data, contact every employee and client, and resume attacks if payment was not received by March 31 at 12 p.m. Central Time. The FBI warned in 2025 that SRG has been targeting law firms since early 2023 due to the highly sensitive nature of legal industry data. The negotiation screenshots reference Jones Day's connection to the Epstein files and ties to child predators. There is no indication SRG has resumed attacks or acquired additional data. This is not Jones Day's first breach. The firm was previously affected by the Clop Excellion file transfer vulnerability exploitation. Action: Law firms and professional services organizations should review email security controls and conduct phishing awareness training. SRG typically gains initial access through phishing campaigns targeting high-value individuals in legal organizations. Implement email authentication, DMARC, SBF, DKIM, enforce MFA, multi-factor authentication on all accounts, and monitor for unusual data access patterns or large file transfers. If you are a Jones Day client, contact the firm for breach notification details. Source: Data Breaches. Net. Iran-linked Pay2Key ransomware returns with upgraded tactics. Pay2Key, an Iranian ransomware gang with ties to Fox Kitten, Lemon Sandstorm, Parasite, Pioneer Kitten, Unc 757, targeted a U.S. healthcare organization in late February 2026 with an upgraded variant. The attack leveraged an undetermined access route, used legitimate remote access tools like TeamViewer for initial foothold, harvested credentials for lateral movement, disabled Microsoft Defender antivirus by falsely signaling that a third-party antivirus product is active, inhibited recovery, deployed ransomware, and cleared logs at the end of execution to cover tracks. No data was exfiltrated during the attack, a shift from the group's typical double extortion playbook. The new variant features improved evasion, execution, and anti-forensics techniques compared to campaigns observed in July 2025. Following its return in 2025, Pay2Key increased affiliate ransom splits from 70% to 80% for attacks targeting Iran's enemies. A Linux variant was detected in August 2025. Action: Healthcare organizations should audit for signs of TeamViewer or other legitimate RMM tool abuse, review Microsoft Defender logs for unexpected disabling events, and implement log forwarding to a centralized SIEM to prevent local log deletion. The fact that Pay2Key is clearing logs at the end of execution rather than the beginning is a deliberate anti-forensics tactic that wipes even the ransomware's own activity. Monitor for sudden log gaps or event log service manipulation. Source: The Hacker News. Next section: Business and Infrastructure Threats. Axios NPM package compromised by North Korean hackers. Unc 1069, North Korean threat actors. Unc 1069 seized control of the NPM account belonging to the lead maintainer of Axios, a popular NPM package with nearly 100 million weekly downloads. To push malicious versions containing cross-platform malware dubbed Waveshaper, V2. Malicious versions were available for only a few hours, but Axios is deeply embedded across enterprise applications, meaning organizations may have unknowingly pulled compromised code through build pipelines or downstream dependencies. The malware includes self-deleting anti-forensic cleanup, pointing to a deliberate, planned operation. This incident demonstrates how quickly the compromise of a popular NPM package can have ripple effects through the ecosystem. Action: Immediately audit all NPM dependencies and lock files for Axios versions published during the compromise window. Run NPM audit and check build pipeline logs for unexpected Axios updates. Scan developer workstations and build servers for indicators of Waveshaper. V2 compromise. Review CI/CD system access controls, implement dependency pinning, and use tools like Dependabot or Snike to monitor for malicious package versions. This is a supply chain attack at scale. Even organizations that never directly installed Axios may be affected through transitive dependencies. Source: The Hacker News. AI-enabled device code phishing campaign. Microsoft observed a widespread phishing campaign leveraging the device code authentication flow to compromise organizational accounts at scale. This campaign is distinct from previous device code attacks because it moves away from static manual scripts toward AI-driven infrastructure with multiple end-to-end automations. Threat actors used automation platforms like Railway.com to spin up thousands of unique, short-lived polling nodes running Node.js backend logic, bypassing signature-based detection. Generative AI created hyper-personalized lures aligned to victim roles, RFP, invoices, manufacturing workflows. Dynamic code generation, triggered at the moment of user interaction, bypassed the standard 15-minute device code expiration window. Post-compromise activity included automated reconnaissance using Microsoft Graph to map organizational structure and permissions, creation of malicious inbox rules for persistence and data exfiltration, and targeting of high-value accounts in financial or executive roles. Action: block device code authentication flow at the tenant level if not required for legitimate use cases, smart TVs, printers. Configure conditional access policies to restrict device code flows to specific IP ranges or require device compliance. Monitor Azure Active Directory sign-in logs for device code authentication events, especially those originating from Tor nodes or unusual geographic locations. Audit inbox rules for all users, particularly high-value targets, and enable alerts for new inbox rule creation. This attack demonstrates the evolution from Storm 2372's February 2025 campaign to a more sophisticated AI-driven operation. Source: Microsoft Security Blog. RAN-linked password spraying campaign targets Microsoft 365. An Iran Nexus threat actor conducted password spraying attacks against Microsoft 365 environments in Israel and the UAE across 3 waves on March 3, March 13, and March 23, 2026. The campaign impacted over 300 organizations in Israel and over 25 in the UAE, with limited targeting in Europe, the US, the UK, and Saudi Arabia. Targeted sectors include government entities, municipalities, technology, transportation, energy, and private sector companies. The campaign unfolds in 3 phases: aggressive scanning or password spraying from Tor exit nodes, login process execution, and sensitive data exfiltration, mailbox content. Analysis of M365 logs shows similarities to Gray Sandstorm, formerly DEV0343, including use of red team tools via Tor exit nodes and commercial VPN nodes hosted at as 35,758, Ratchamim Avial Tweedo, aligning with recent Iran Nexus operations in the Middle East. The technique is also associated with Peach Sandstorm. Action: monitor sign-in logs for password spraying patterns, single password against multiple accounts, high volume of failed authentication, attempts from Tor exit nodes or VPN providers. Implement conditional access policies to block or require additional authentication from high-risk locations. Enforce MFA for all users, prioritizing high-value accounts. Enable audit logs for post-compromise investigation and monitor for unusual mailbox access patterns or data exfiltration. Organizations in Israel, UE, and critical infrastructure sectors should treat this as high priority. Source: The Hacker News. Killin and Warlock ransomware use BYOVD to disable 300+ EDR tools. Killin and Warlock ransomware operations use Bring Your Own Vulnerable Driver, BYOVD, attacks to disable endpoint detection and response solutions. Killin attacks deploy a malicious DLL, dynamic link library, named msimg32. DLL via DLL sideloading, capable of terminating over 300 EDR drivers from almost every security vendor. Loader neutralizes user mode hooks, suppresses event tracing for Windows ETWA logs, and decrypts the EDR killer payload in memory. The malware uses 2 drivers, RWDRV, SYS renamed throttle stop, SYS to gain physical memory access, and HLPDRV, SYS to terminate EDR processes. Both drivers have been used in Akira and Mackup ransomware intrusions. Killin is the most active ransomware group in recent months, linked to 22 of 134 incidents, 16.4%, reported in Japan in 2025. Killin primarily relies on stolen credentials for initial access and executes ransomware approximately 6 days after initial compromise. Warlock Watermantle continues to exploit unpatched Microsoft SharePoint servers and has updated its toolset with tight VNC for persistence, a legitimate but vulnerable NSEC driver, NSEC KRNL. SYS for BYOVD attacks replacing the previous Google API util 64. SYS driver, PS exec for lateral movement. RDP Patcher for concurrent RDP sessions, Velociraptor for command and control, Visual Studio Code, and Cloudflare Tunnel for tunneling C2, Use for intranet penetration and reverse proxy, and Arclone for data exfiltration. A Warlock attack was observed in January 2026. Action: implement driver signature enforcement and block known vulnerable drivers using Microsoft's recommended driver block rules. Monitor for unexpected driver loads, particularly throttle stop. SYS, NSEC KRNL, SYS, or other drivers known to be abused in BYOVD attacks. Enable ETW event collection and forward to a centralized seam-to-detect suppression attempts. Detect DLL sideloading by monitoring for unexpected DLLs in application directories. Killen's 6-day average dwell time from initial access to ransomware execution provides a detection window. Focus on early detection of stolen credential use and lateral movement. Source: The Hacker News. Next section, Vulnerability Disclosures. Flowise AI platform under active exploitation. CVE 2025-59528, CVE 2025-59528, a maximum severity 10. 0 CVSS code injection vulnerability in Flowise, open source AI platform, is under active exploitation. The flaw exists in the custom MCP node, which allows users to input configuration settings for connecting to an external MCP, Model Context Protocol, server. The node parses user-provided MCP server config string to build the MCP server configuration, but executes JavaScript code without security validation. Successful exploitation allows access to dangerous modules like child process, command execution, and FS file system with full node. JS runtime privileges leading to arbitrary JavaScript code execution, full system compromise, file system access, command execution, and sensitive data exfiltration. An API token is required for exploitation. Vuln check observed exploitation from a single Starlink IP address. This is the third Flowise flaw within the wild exploitation after 9. 8 CVSS, OS command remote code execution, EPSS 99th percentile, and 8. 9 CVSS, arbitrary file upload, EPSS 99th percentile. Over 12,000 Flowise instances are exposed on the internet. The vulnerability was disclosed in September 2025 and patched in version 3.0.6 of the NPM package, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: update Flowise to version 3.0.6 or later immediately. Audit API token usage and rotate all tokens. Review logs for unauthorized MCP server configuration changes or unusual JavaScript execution. With over 6 months since disclosure and 12,000 plus exposed instances, this represents a critical risk to organizations using Flowise for AI workflows. If Flowise cannot be patched immediately, remove it from internet exposure and restrict access to trusted networks only. Source: The Hacker News. Windows Privilege Escalation 0-Day Bluehammer. Leaked exploit code was released for an unpatched Windows privilege escalation flaw dubbed Bluehammer. The vulnerability was reported privately to Microsoft, but the researcher, Chaotic Eclipse/Nightmare Eclipse, publicly released exploit code after expressing frustration with Microsoft Security Response Center, MSRC handling. The flaw is a local privilege escalation combining a talk to, time of check to time of use, and path confusion, allowing attackers to gain access to the Security Account Manager, SAM, database containing password hashes for local accounts. Successful exploitation enables escalation to system privileges and complete machine compromise. The researcher noted the proof-of-concept code contains bugs that may prevent reliable exploitation. On Windows Server platforms, the exploit increases permissions from non-admin to elevated administrator. The flaw requires local access to exploit, but poses significant risk, as hackers can gain local access through social engineering, software vulnerabilities, or credential-based attacks. Microsoft's response states support for coordinated vulnerability disclosure to protect customers before public disclosure. Action: monitor for unauthorized access to SAM database files, unexpected privilege escalation attempts, and suspicious use of talk-to-related API calls. While the exploit requires local access and contains bugs, it represents a real threat for environments where attackers have gained initial foothold through phishing or other vectors. Apply Microsoft's patch when available. Until then, enforce principle of least privilege, monitor for unusual process spawning with system privileges, and audit local administrator group membership. Source: Bleeping Computer. GPU breach attack enables full CPU privilege escalation via GDDR 6-bit flips. Academic research identified multiple row hammer attacks against high-performance GPUs, including GPU breach, GDDR hammer, and GForge. GPU breach demonstrates that row hammer bit flips in GPU memory can enable privilege escalation and full system compromise, not just data corruption. By corrupting GPU page tables via GDDR6 bit flips, an unprivileged process can gain arbitrary GPU memory read/write. Then chain that into full CPU privilege escalation by exploiting memory safety bugs in the NVIDIA driver. GPU breach works even with IMU enabled, bypassing protections entirely by corrupting trusted driver state within IMU-permitted buffers and triggering kernel-level out-of-bounds writes. The attack can leak secret cryptographic keys from NVIDIA cuPQC, stage model accuracy degradation attacks, and obtain CPU privilege escalation. GPU breach extends GPU hammer, July 2025. The first practical row hammer attack targeting NVIDIA GPUs using GDDR6 memory. GDDR hammer and GForge are concurrent works also using GPU page table corruption via GDDR6 row hammer. GForge requires IMU to be disabled, whereas GPU breach and GDDR hammer work with IMU enabled. The compromise has serious implications for cloud AI infrastructure, multi-tenant GPU deployments, and HPC environments. Action: this is a research disclosure, not an active exploitation campaign, but organizations running multi-tenant GPU infrastructure, cloud AI, HPC, should monitor for unusual GPU driver behavior, unexpected memory access patterns, or model accuracy degradation. Apply NVIDIA driver updates when available. Consider isolating high-security GPU workloads from untrusted tenants. DRAM manufacturers have implemented ECC and target row refresh, TRR, to counter row hammer, but GDDR6 memory in GPUs has been less studied and may lack comprehensive mitigations. Source: The Hacker News. Next section, Patch Priority. Fortinet 40 Client EMS, CVE 2026-35616. Critical 9. 1 CVSS, unauthenticated RCE, 0-day exploited in the wild since March 31, CIS a deadline April 9. Chrome CVE 2026-5281. High-severity use after free and web GPU, actively exploited 0-day, CIS a deadline April 15. TrueConf, CVE 2026-3502. 7. 8 CVSS, lack of update integrity checks, 0-day exploited against Southeast Asian governments, CIS a deadline April 16. FlowEyes, CVE 2025-59528. 10. 0 CVSS, code injection leading to RCE, active exploitation since 6 months post-disclosure, 12,000 plus exposed instances. Storm 1000, 175 targets, 16 CVEs. Microsoft Exchange, Papercut, Ivanti, Connect, Wisescreen Connect, JetBrains, TeamCity, Simple Help, Go Anywhere MFT, Smarter Mail, Beyond Trust, all actively exploited in Medusa ransomware campaigns. Next section, General Security News. Grytman Medical Center reopens after cybersecurity incident. Grytman Medical Center in Moscow, Idaho reopened clinics on Friday after a cybersecurity incident disrupted outpatient care beginning Wednesday. Multiple primary and specialty clinics were closed due to an electronic systems outage, including Downtown Clinic, Westside Clinic, General Surgery, Gastroenterology, Orthopedic Surgery, Therapy, Pain, Sleep, Urology, and Family Medicine locations. The hospital and emergency department remained open throughout. Electronic systems came back online Friday, and normal clinic operations resumed Monday, April 6. The incident was publicly disclosed Thursday. Source: Data breaches. Net. Main House advances bill to strengthen hospital cybersecurity. Main House voted unanimously Thursday to advance LD 2103, a bill requiring Maine hospitals to adopt cybersecurity measures and ensure continuity of patient care when future cyber attacks occur. The bill aims to prevent cybersecurity attacks on Maine hospitals. The measure was introduced by Rep. Julie McCabe D. Lewiston. Source: Data breaches. Net. Microsoft fixes classic Outlook bug causing email delivery issues. Microsoft resolved a known issue preventing some classic Outlook users from sending emails via Outlook. Affected users received non-delivery reports, NDR, with 0x807005-0x0004 DC 0x000524 errors warning. This message could not be sent. Try sending the message again later or contact your network administrator. The issue occurred more frequently when the Outlook.com account was an Outlook profile linked to another Exchange account, or when the sender's account had an Exchange online mail contact with the same SMTP address. Microsoft implemented a server-side fix on April 3, 2026. Source: Bleeping Computer. Next section, Trends and Context. 3 major themes dominate this cycle: Zero-day exploitation velocity is accelerating, AI is enabling both attacks and defense at new scale, and healthcare remains the highest-value ransomware target. Storm 1000, 175's one-day weaponization of CVE 2025-31324, and their exploitation of and as 0 days before disclosure demonstrate threat actors are outpacing patch cycles. The AI-enabled device code phishing campaign shows how generative AI and automation platforms are lowering the barrier for sophisticated social engineering at scale. Every major ransomware story today involves healthcare. Storm 1175 heavily impacting healthcare organizations, Pay 2 key targeting a U.S. healthcare provider, and Maine advancing legislation specifically to protect hospitals. The pattern is clear patch faster, assume breach, and prioritize healthcare infrastructure defense, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.